Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II, World at War. This is our Let's Play series that is approaching episode number 80, and we're into May of 1946. The war is going well for the Axis, which is who we are playing as. We've taken China, we've taken India as Japan. Germany, meanwhile, has taken more or less the rest of the Middle East: Persia, Iraq, Palestine, Jordan, Syria, Egypt. Germany has also taken the Sudan, and this last turn just took Ethiopia as they're moving further and further down the African continent. So presumably the rest of Ethiopia will fall this turn. Additionally, they have retaken North Africa, so retaken Libya, Tunisia, and the majority of Algeria from the American forces, which had previously taken the island over, but only temporarily. Meanwhile, all the Western countries in Europe have been taken. I think I already mentioned that Russia has fallen, Norway has fallen. There's still some individual fighting going on near Narvik, which is where the Allies landed sort of a new invasion of Norway, but that's sort of a short-lived thing, and we need another headquarters unit out there or something like that to help us reduce those forces out there. But right now, the majority of our German forces are tied up in the invasion of England, which we began a couple of turns ago, gained a foothold near Plymouth on the southwest coast of England, and this last turn we drove eastward, took Bristol, took Portsmouth, and we're not breaking out. The Allies have a crap ton of men, and they could easily throw us back if they concentrate their forces on one or two units and just attack everything at them, or at least they have a chance of driving us back. But nonetheless, we're starting to pour some of our reinforcements into England, and hopefully we'll be able to drive on London and take London this year while the weather still cooperates, so that our cross-channel air units can continue to provide support from the English coast. Meanwhile, one other invasion of note. We're trying to keep this summary a little bit brief. I know some of you have commented that every time repeating things can get a little bit tedious. So one other thing, in the Pacific, the Japanese are invading Australia. They've had some success on the northern coast, driving eastward in the direction of Cairns. The Americans have several units in and around the city and blocking our forces there, although we've had modest levels of success due to Allied units having very poor supply. And we're also driving southward toward Alice Springs and toward the interior of Australia. But this last turn, we landed 3 land units, an army, an armored unit, and a marine unit, as well as a headquarter unit, and we took the city of Sydney, and we now are within striking distance, potentially, of the Australian capital at Canberra. That being said, we've already played our turn, so why don't we go ahead and let's see what the AI does as we move into June. Okay, suffering some attrition in North Africa. Abyssinia surrenders, so that's Ethiopia. Partisan activity in China. I'm not too worried about partisan activity as long as it doesn't mean that any actual rebels are arriving up against us. Espionage advances long-range aircraft development by 13%. Wow, that'll be nice. Germany's long-range aircraft are not advanced enough as it is. Italy and Japan developing some new technology this turn. Also, Japan getting into the jet technology phase with their level 5 fighters. And now we'll see what the Allies have in store. We've destroyed a large number of American naval vessels, but they keep seeming to come back, and America has so much money that I wouldn't be surprised if we run into more of them still. Meanwhile, taking Sydney was convenient from a supply perspective, but I kind of expect the American units in northern Australia, if possible, to rail south and pose a massive challenge for us in Australia. That being said, if they do that, they will vacate the majority of their units in northern Australia, which could be beneficial for us if it means that those other units that we already have can move southward more effectively. Meanwhile, a bunch of American destroyers are approaching the Japanese coast, Hopefully there are no transports with them, but you can see they're launching some attacks against our light carrier there. We've got a couple of American light cruisers. There's a heavy American cruiser, another heavy American cruiser, an American aircraft carrier. And, yeah, this might, another American aircraft carrier. I'm wondering if this is the whole American fleet. I wonder if they've sent, in desperation, everything toward England. Hopefully there are no landing units with them. Hopefully it is all just naval units. I've actually kind of pulled a lot of my naval units to the south toward Australia, so I'm not sure. They may have local superiority, although we should be able to whittle them down a bit. I'm kind of a little bit concerned if they were to launch an actual amphibious assault. They've done this a couple of times where they've sent large numbers of naval vessels. I don't know if I've seen quite this many before toward Japan, but it's never included actual amphibious assault craft. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Hopefully the weather also accommodates us so that our air units in the home islands can provide a little bit of support. We don't have a ton of air units there, but we have a few, and it would be nice if they could provide some support. Meanwhile, in England, the large numbers of American and British air units are trying to bomb our forward elements there to take the steam out of our attack. The tactical air doesn't seem to be having much success against our armor. Definitely a lot of air battles that are being fought, casualties on both sides, but not much in the way of actual losses or hit point losses to the units of ours that are there. British Army attacking the German panzers in Bristol. Looks like we got the better of it. Meanwhile, American infantry here in northern Australia are actually attacking rather than withdrawing down the rail line toward Canberra, which either means they may have our large force already between us and the capital, or not, and for whatever reason the AI is not choosing the Sir Robin approach. I suppose you could argue if they retreat and surrender the majority of Australia, Australia would be all lost anyway. Meanwhile, a lot of submarine actions going on here off the coast of England. We deployed a ton of our submarines into the Irish Sea in a deliberate effort to try and lure some of the American air power to basically focus on us, on our naval forces, rather than focusing on the landings and the soldiers in England. And that may have worked. Certainly a lot of anti-submarine activity there as well, of which the Allies are pretty darn good at. Doing some pretty heavy damage to our troops there, or to our subs there. As you would expect. I mean, that's a very narrow corridor, somewhat shallow. Definitely suicide mission to send subs in that way. We got some American fighters here to the south near London. British are actually pulling some of their cavalry back. We'll have to see. I mean, part of me wants to go for Cardiff and Wales, but the drive on London would probably be smarter. Meanwhile, American Marines in northern Australia suffering attrition damage. Norwegian partisans continue to turn Bergen into a smoking hole in the ground. And more commerce raiding. I know the Commonwealth morale is super low. The Allies did offer to surrender to us a while ago. This was quite a while ago, but they did offer to surrender to us a while ago. Just not unconditional. It was a conditional surrender. So we turned them down. Well, they still have at least some naval units off the west coast of America. Japan has a new mechanized unit that was just raised, so that's actually pretty convenient for us in the event that they did send anything of real substance against us. Let's move this battleship here against this carrier. And let's engage this carrier with our battleship. So what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to attack the enemy carriers with our surface vessels, mainly because if I can destroy them with my surface vessels, then my air units can basically have a free hand. Alright, so that light cruiser will finish off that American carrier. Actually, we should see what the Americans have with their navy right now. What's the report? So the American fleet consists of 30 naval vessels. They were at 31 before that last sinking. Okay, that's good to know. We'll go after this American carrier. Is there anybody else that can reach them? Any light forces? Got a destroyer up here. So we'll send him down here to finish this American carrier. So 2 American fleet carriers sunk. And those are national morale hits to the Allies. So that should be hard for them. Now that should cause them to lose all of their air support over the area. So we'll bring our carriers in. They will have anti-aircraft guns that can fire and support, but at least they won't have fleet fighters protecting them. So you can see we just brought in the Amagi, which just sank a heavy American cruiser. We'll have the Akagi attack another American heavy cruiser. Sink that. Now we'll have the Taiho go after this American light cruiser. Sink that. Very good result. What do we still have that can attack? 2 battleships. I think that's all we have in range here. So we're probably not going to be able to destroy the whole American force. We'll have this light carrier, the Zuiho, go after that destroyer. Damn it didn't finish it off. The Shoho will go after this American light cruiser. Kagi already used its strikes. The Tahoe. Alright, I think that does it for our carrier strikes. These guys will go after this heavy light cruiser. They'll sink it. The Musashi finishes that light cruiser off. The Fuso sinks that destroyer off. So the Americans still have 2 destroyers in the area that we can identify. Pull our carriers back a bit to port. They're a little bit safer there. We do have 1 kamikaze unit, so we can use this kamikaze unit against that American destroyer and destroy it. Now the kamikaze units immediately get destroyed themselves because, well, they're kamikazes, so that makes sense. So there's 1 American destroyer that looks like it will survive. We could try and strafe it with our fighters, but I don't know if there's much point to that. Okay. Right, by the looks of it, we got the entire American force. They do have 1 destroyer left. So that means they have only 23 naval assets. That's got to be the vast majority of their Pacific force. We know they have 1 cruiser off the American west coast, but with 23 units, we know they've got 5 or 6 subs in the Pacific, so that brings them down to around maybe 17 or 18. We know they have at least 5 or 6 units in the Atlantic, so that really only leaves like 10 more units that are unaccounted for. So that's a really good result for us. Meanwhile, I don't really want to attack at Tricom Lee. The British are launching a counter-invasion of Abyssinia, except then they're not. Looks like they moved in and then they fell back right away. So we'll go ahead and destroy that South African headquarters unit. We'll go for Berba. Those guys. This guy will go to Abyssinia or Abbas. The heavy tanks will go for Nairobi. Can they finish these guys off? They can. They just can't advance into the capital. So we can't take the capital of Kenya and Nairobi this turn. Maybe next turn. I don't think there's any partisans we have to worry about down here, so we can keep moving these Syrian troops south. I don't know why I keep moving them back and forth, but they can't apparently get any closer. All right, so maybe Berba's open now that we destroyed that South African headquarters unit. It would be great if we could take the capital of Berba and then also the capital of Nairobi. Sorry, the capital of Kenya. The city of Nairobi. And then Berba, the capital of British Somaliland. The French here are neutral, so we're not going after them yet. So we've got some paratroopers which just came ashore from India into Africa. So the war in Africa is going well. These Germans did suffer some attrition. Kind of curious where the American units are, if they pulled out of Africa altogether. I'd hate to have to advance into the desert of Algeria just so we can mark off the rest of the territory. But looks like Africa is going well. How about our invasion of England? We need to reinforce these guys to full strength. I guess we'll attack... I'd prefer to go after London itself. What if we do... what's here? That's a... Alright. So that's a German corps. We'll go after the American air unit here just off of London. Alright. So before we move there, what do we want to do? Do we want to try and reduce these guys, or do we want to go for some of these other easier prey? Alright, so these guys have prepared, so they can land. They're paratroopers, and they have prepared for amphibious attacks. First things first, let's do this. Let's go for this infantry unit here, the 5th American Corps. See if we can destroy it. And we can. Okay, good result. Can any of these guys move forward into that hole? The paratroopers can drop into it. Meanwhile, these Panthers go ahead and try and finish these guys off. So we'll do that. We'll draw some interceptors that away. Okay, and finish off them. Alright, so move these troops forward into Cardiff. Move these guys here. This is African Field Artillery. 13th German what? Infantry. Okay. So we've taken the city of Cardiff and Wales. We have... So, I mean, we have this field artillery unit here. So these guys can start bombarding that direction next turn. Mechanized troops will start moving up. Paratroopers, do we want to land them over here? Probably not, because I would imagine there will be enemy interceptors that we'll have to deal with. So I think what we could do is we could try reducing the entrenchments. Or do we want to try and reduce the forces leading up to London? These guys could move. The 13th Army probably could move there. So let's go after this Special Forces unit. Let's see if we can destroy the Special Forces unit with just air units. So it'll take a lot of bombing. But we might be able to do it, just maybe. We'll have to see. The interceptors do kind of fog things up a bit. So 2 bombing raids, 2 hit points destroyed. Not quite as decisive as I had hoped. We are getting rid of their entrenchments, so they have no more entrenchments, so that's good. So we're basically going to waste our whole air turn trying to destroy these special forces. So they're weaker now. Right, let's reinforce these guys. They've taken quite a few casualties. Okay. Alright, well that didn't work. We weakened the special forces. We definitely gave them a black eye. But that's about all we could do. So let's reinforce the air units that we can. Actually, we might have this first Panzer suffer landing casualties. All right, so we're going to go ahead and destroy this British head. Oh, we can't. Can our jets finish them off? Why are they not? Why do these medium bombers look different? This was a poorly planned operation from the start. I would love to like try and snatch one of these British ports or land in the rear or something and cause all sorts of havoc. But I think all that would succeed in doing is getting my men killed. Okay. Alright, this guy's at 5. He needs to upgrade. I mean, I could try and pray that maybe these fighter jets have some success, but it doesn't seem like they're going to. We do have this medium bomber. I don't know why these medium bombers can't do jack diddly. I wonder if you can, like, run a fighter sweep against enemy fighters. Probably not effectively. Okay, well that was a disappointing turn. Reinforce him to max. Over here. Problem is I have more troops than I have room for troops. I mean, I've crammed England full of as many Germans as I can. At least right now. Norway. Nice. We got some casualties in on them. I think we might have also finally knocked their entrenchments down to 0. Yep, we have. Okay, so that's a good result. So now North Africa's done. Let's go ahead and operate this Italian bomber to Europe, since there's no real purpose in them being anywhere else. Let's move these guys out of Amsterdam. Those bombers are going to be more useful in Amsterdam. Let's move them here. Whoops. Bumped my mouse. Operate them north to Amsterdam, so next turn hopefully they can help against London. We're starting to run out of summer. We're into June. The good weather only holds so long, so we'll have to see what we can do there. From a purchasing perspective for the Germans, do we have more air units we can buy? Not really. Buy new tanks, because we suffered casualties. So we can do that. But we can't actually buy any new Try buying more rockets. But those are more strategic weapons. I don't know how far railguns can shoot, but the odds of us needing them 1 hex away is probably pretty limited. So we'll kind of keep that on the back burner. We'll go ahead and move these guys. Can we attack this sub or this cruiser? Shit. Oh, fuck. Enemy transports, or amphibious transports. Bringing in more enemy troops. I don't think I've got the sub power to destroy them all. Ah! They intercepted that sub. Well, and we pretty much toasted all of our air attacks. I mean, we did bloody one. Oh, there's another one there? Good God. They're just flooding the channel with... Sure hope they don't try and land in France. Let's reinforce these guys. Okay, so I mean, we nearly sank this guy. Okay. Do we have any other fighters in the area? No one who hasn't shot something. Yeah, it looks like everybody's already flown and attacked. Oh, actually, this guy hasn't. And we can't even finish the fuckers off. Great. Alright, so this is a ranger unit, this is a army unit, and this is another army unit. Okay, good to know. We have to figure out how to deal with that next turn, but everybody else has already made their moves. The maritime bombers can't reach. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Well, we'll have to see what they do. If they land, I mean, they don't have enough troops for it to matter. We already did North Africa. We didn't do Chile yet, or Argentina. We're considering going to war with Bolivia, just because their capital's right there on the border and we could easily conquer it. Japan did fighting near the home islands, but we didn't do Australia yet. So let's do that. So we'll finish off this American unit here. Another American unit in the interior. Nice. Alright, the Americans must not have much in the way of like headquarters units here in Australia because they're getting chewed up with relative ease. Okay. Bring these headquarters units south. Alright, so we're now driving into the interior of Australia. Meanwhile, in the south... Oh, shit. shot to pieces. Carriers can't really do much of anything right now. The weather isn't good enough. Okay, move him into Sydney. Move these Marines west. What's this American unit? Its supplies are 4. Our own supplies are 4. Move our armored unit over this way. They only have a garrison in Canberra. They do have an American army unit in the way, but if the weather turns, if we can get that armored unit of ours into action, we might be able to take it in one turn. Okay, we'll bombard the port at Wellington just as a distraction. Probably should have kept our fleet concentrated down there. But alas, we didn't. Meanwhile, 2 headquarters units in the south because I didn't bother to look if that was a headquarters unit. Alright. Whatever happened to that mechanized unit we had in Manchuria? Did we move him into India? Probably. Okay. Back into German territory you go. All right. All right, the Germans are almost out of India. So that is good. And I think we're about it, guys. I think this turn's about done. Abyssinia fell this turn. I'm hoping Berbera and Nairobi both fall next turn, and then we can take another big chunk of British colonial possessions. If we go ahead and we take a look at the losses, well, actually, if we go back to graphs, we took a look at the U.S. losses by MPP. I'm imagining they lost a huge amount. Yes, they definitely lost more than their income this turn, 2,400 with that massive fleet that was destroyed. National morale plummeting. They're all the way down to 38%. The British are all the way down to 29%. So I think if Australia falls, that'll be the final. Well, Australia and England both falling would probably be the nail in the coffin for the American morale, as well as the British. Well, obviously the British, if they lose their capital, they're done too. But yeah, nonetheless, a good turn for us, I think. We'll see how things turn out next time as we move into July. Remember, this game ends in the spring of 47, so we don't have that much longer. But I'm pretty confident at this point that we can take London. And if London falls, then we may not have to take Manchester, which is the alternate capital, based on the morale numbers. But even if we do, if we can take London and we can take Canberra, then we might well win this war. I think there's an alternate capital at Melbourne, which is right next to Canberra, so it's not the best located alternate capital. But the one challenge here in Australia right now is the weather is not cooperating all that much. But yeah, that's a topic for another time. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up. Hope you guys enjoyed as always. And until next time, guys, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.